Hi, everybody. It's Monday, and this is the 35th official episode of Bedtime Stories with Pastor Moira, which means we have been at it for 5 weeks, and we are starting our 6th week of preventative distancing. We have about 6 more weeks to go, and by that point, we should have flattened the curve and protected our healthcare workers and our hospitals and kept infections to a minimum. And I know it's hard. And it's exhausting, and we would like to be able to go to shops, and we would like for people who work in shops and own shops to be able to have those things open and running as completely as possible. But we also have to listen to the best scientists and the best doctors and the best Leah kittens. Actually, she just wants a snuggle. She's been trying to come up all the time I've been working at the computer. So we have to listen to the best scientists and doctors and healthcare professionals to help us do what's best, not just for ourselves, but for our whole community and for the whole world. And that takes a long time with something as unknown to the human body and to the human scientists as this COVID-19 virus. So it's going to take a while. At least here in Wisconsin, though, it's trying to be spring. There's a cold kind of wind coming, but my bees came, and so they got installed in their new house and in their hive for this year, and it went really, really well. They seem nice and calm, and were quite happy when they got put in there. A few of them still flying around when I came in from the hardware store where I had to go get a couple of things. And so that's a good sign. In a couple days, we should have some more pictures of them inside the hive and video I can share with you then. We're going to give them a little rest, let them settle in to their new place for a couple of days. So I have a book about a dragon and a gecko, or might be a crocodile. I'm not sure. It's another one of those serendipity books from when I was a little girl. Creole. There's the crocodile gecko-y creature. We'll find out in a minute. Creole, written by Stephen Cosgrove, illustrated by Robin James, dedicated to Pharrell Brown, a man of many names and many faces. On a foggy, foggy morning in the land of the swamp, from a battered, speckled egg, Creole was born. Big egg. She was big, fat, and very, very ugly. She had warts on her fingers, warts on her toes, bony pointed knees, and a big, flat nose. Beneath all of that, which made her so ugly, was the most beautiful heart that had ever beat anywhere in the world. Because of her beautiful heart, Creole thought the most beautiful thoughts that could ever be thought. She thought of love, for her heart was full of love. She thought of happiness, for her heart was full of happiness. And she thought of tenderness, for she was the gentlest of all the creatures. Day in and day out, she would sit alone, sniffing the flowers and talking to the trees that grew in the swamp. One day, as she was sitting near a large magnolia tree, Creole thought, maybe I should share my love and happiness with the other creatures of the swamp. So with that in mind, she set off to find some animals that could become her friends. Now, this is where the story is not going to get very nice, but I promise it ends okay. Don't get scared. As noisy as that swamp could be with all the animals living there, it would fall into a silent hush as Creole walked by. The birds became quiet, the possum sat still, and the alligators all slipped away. They all thought that because she was so fat and ugly, She just had to be mean, too. Creole looked and looked, but she could not find a friend at all. Finally, with watermelon-sized tears falling at her feet, she sat with a heavy thump on a big old broken stump and cried and cried. "Why won't anyone listen to me?" she sobbed. "The only thing I want in the whole world is just to have someone to tell my happy thoughts to." There's the tears she's crying. The tears rolled over her cheeks, bounced off her belly, slipped and slid down the log, and finally landed with a large kerplunk on the head of a baby alligator sitting just below. So I guess now we know it was an alligator. The little alligator looked around to see who had been throwing water on him, when suddenly, from above, came another large tear. Kerplunk! He looked up, way up, and saw Creole. "Why are you crying on me?" stuttered the alligator. Creole looked down and spied the smallest, most pathetic alligator she had ever seen. I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't know you were down there. The last thing I wanted to do in the whole world was to hurt someone." Wiping a tear from her eye, Creole suddenly realized that the little alligator had not run away and was actually talking to her. "Why didn't you run away like everyone else?" asked Creole. "Because I hope you will be my friend," stuttered the alligator. "The other alligators all laugh at me because I stutter and can't talk straight." They looked into each other's eyes and realized that they were what each of them was looking for: a friend. For the longest time, Creole and her newfound friend sat and shared their friendship. After a while, Creole said, "It's too bad you and I don't have more friends. I wonder what we could do to convince the other creatures not to laugh at you and not to be afraid of me." The little alligator nodded his head in agreement, and the two of them tried to figure out a way to talk with the other animals of the swamp. "I know what we shall do," Creole said. "I can hide behind a big bush, and you can stand in front. When all the animals have gathered around, I'll tell you what to say. Then you can talk about love and happiness." Well, the little alligator reluctantly agreed, and with Creole hidden behind a lilac bush, he nervously called to the other animals. A couple of times he got so scared he tried to hide, but each time she would gently shove him back out and tell him not to be afraid. Now the other animals of the swamp, not seeing Creole around, knew that it was safe to come out and listen to all that the little alligator had to say. One by one, they all crept from the bushes, the berries, and the waters of the swamp. There were 4 or 5 big old alligators and a couple of small ones, 2 yellow snakes and a blue one, 23 birds of a feather, a lazy possum and his wife, and a great white heron. With all the creatures gathered around, the little alligator began repeating what Creole was whispering to him. He told them about the beauty of the early morning dawn and about the sunset over the swamp. He talked of love, beauty, and most of all, friendship. The animals were all amazed at what the alligator was saying and how clearly he was saying it. For you see, when the alligator didn't have to make up what he said, he didn't stutter at all. Here's all the critters. Here's Creole hiding in the back. Everything would have been all right if it had not been for a nosy squirrel who happened to peek behind the bush that Creole was whispering from. The squirrel let out a yelp and shouted, "Run as fast as you can! The big ugly creature is back!" Creole was so shocked at being discovered that she tripped on a bush, scaring the creatures even more. "Wait, wait," she cried. "I'm not going to hurt you. We just wanted to be your friends." But the creatures wouldn't listen, and scrambling over one another, they ran away. The little alligator chased after them, shouting in a very clear voice, "Stop! Creole is my friend and she would never hurt anyone." The other creatures, who by this time were hidden in the bushes, listened to the little alligator. And suddenly a wise old owl spoke from the branches over a pine tree. "Perhaps we should believe him," he said, "for his ugly friend Creole has stopped him from stuttering." Sure enough, during all the excitement of chasing the creatures, the little alligator hadn't stuttered a single word. Sheepishly, all the creatures went back to where Creole was sadly waiting, with the little alligator leading the way. "Creole," said the alligator, "all my fellow creatures of the swamp are sorry that they judged you by how you look. But if you will forgive them, they would love to hear you talk of all the happiness in your heart." With a radiant smile overcoming her tears, Creole hugged each and every one of the creatures and made them all her friends. Never judge someone by the way he looks, or a book by the way it's covered. For inside those tattered pages, there's a lot to be discovered. They're all having a bonfire, toasting marshmallows, and talking about love. The end. My friends, I know this is going to be hard. I don't want to do it any more than you do, but I want us to be safe and healthy as we can be, and keep as few people from getting this terrible, horrible virus as we can, which means we're going to have to be patient, and we're going to have to be extra kind, and we're going to have to wait when we don't want to, and to stay home, and to wash our hands, and to stay home some more, to wash our hands some more, and to connect with people this way by email and video chat and videos and phone calls and letters and all of those things. And it's very hard, and I know that. But we are in this together because we're doing it for each other. We are so dependent on one another, so connected to each other, we can't even see it sometimes, that we forget that we need each other and we rely on one another and we depend on each other. And that what I do affects what you do. And if I'm healthy, then you can be healthy. And if I get sick, you might get sick too. And that's what we want to stop in these days. So I hope you can find some good in this Monday. You can look for someone who might look rumply on the outside, but have the biggest heart you ever imagined on the inside. And maybe you can think of someone who needs a little extra love and kindness in these days, and you could write a card or color a picture or do one of those things to reach out to them while you stay in your home and they stay in theirs. And of course, in the meantime, the most important thing for you to remember right now is how incredibly much I love you. Bye-bye.